All right, today I'm going to be taking you on a ride along on the Lectric XP 3.0 Long Range Edition. Now, I've been riding this bike for a couple weeks now, and I've put approximately 100 miles, just short of 100 miles on this bike. And so far, I'm pretty impressed. One thing I'll tell you right off the bat about this bike is as soon as I start riding, it's kind of hard to stop, you know. Before I know it, I'm already 10, 15 miles into my ride. So overall, you know, this is a pretty comfortable bike. Now, is it the perfect bike? No. There's definitely some things that I think can be improved upon, but for the price of this bike, I think it offers an absolutely fantastic deal. You definitely get a lot of value for your money here. Now, one thing to remember about this bike is out of the box, it is a Class 2 e-bike, which means it's got a top speed of 20 miles an hour. However, you can actually unlock this bike to Class 3 mode, which will give you a top speed of 28 miles an hour with pedal assist. An important thing to keep in mind about the 28 miles an hour is you can absolutely get to that no problem at all. Just know that you'll be doing quite a bit of pedaling to maintain those speeds. Now, Lectric has done a really good job with the gearing on this bike. It is a 7-gear bike, so 7 gears to select from. But, you know, even at past level 5 going at 28 miles an hour, I don't have much in the way of ghost pedaling where, you know, you're pedaling and you're not really doing anything. Your legs are just moving. Overall, I do have that full connection to the bike and don't run into those situations. So definitely a plus on the gearing on this bike. Now, another thing I want to call out on this bike is it does have front fork suspension. It is not a full suspension bike, so you don't have the rear shocks. So you can definitely feel that, you know, especially when you're going over bumpy terrain, running over you know, potholes, unfortunately. So you definitely feel the fact that you're missing a rear suspension when driving over particularly bumpy and uneven terrain. Now, you can counteract that by purchasing a more comfortable seat, but two, more importantly, a suspension seat post. I got mine from Zoom, and so far I'm really happy with the performance. The difference is actually quite noticeable. The stock seat on this bike, for me, isn't very comfortable. For short rides, it does great, but if you're going to be going out 10, 15, 20 miles, I definitely recommend a more comfortable seat. Now, with that being said, we all come in different shapes and sizes, and some seats might work out beautifully for others, but for me, the stock seat left a little more to be desired. So I actually swapped out my seat with a Cloud 9 seat, which has got plenty of cushion. It's wider and it fits my body a heck of a lot better. And so as you can see right now, I'm doing about 20 miles an hour past level 3. This is super comfortable and plenty fast for my needs. Now, with the Lectric XP 3.0, it does give you the option to use the half throttle built here into the handlebar, or the pedal assist. I really enjoy using the throttle, especially when I am getting going from a stop, let's say at a stoplight, crosswalk, whatever it might be. It's really convenient to be able to get that little bit of assist to get you going. Now, if you're curious what the acceleration on this bike is with throttle only, it's not too bad. I'm about 195 pounds. So let's give it a whirl. So I will go throttle only. And keep in mind, this is Class 2, past level 3, although I'm not pedaling, and I'm at 20 miles now, 20 miles an hour. So not too shabby, really nice to have. And you definitely feel the power when pedaling this bike. You can definitely feel the pedal assist kick in. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that you have the ability to adjust the pedal sensitivity, the pedal assist sensitivity on this bike. By default, there is you know, quite a bit of a lag from when you start pedaling to when the actual motor kicks in for pedal assist. You do have the ability to make adjustments to that within the actual settings menu so that you can reduce that delay and get as close to real-time kick-in of the motor when you start pedaling as possible. Now, as you can see, like, I'm going on this kind of bike path that goes along the freeway here to the right of me, and there's gaps between the concrete panels here. I don't feel those at all whatsoever. So this bike does a pretty good job at absorbing a lot of that impact, and absolutely the suspension seat post has a lot to do with that as well. This bike also comes with 3-inch wide tires, which is super helpful, especially when you want to go off the road into the gravel like this or into dirt. It handles all of this terrain with no issues at all. Now, out of the box, this bike, even though it has the hydraulic brakes, the brakes are pretty squeaky. Now, it takes a little bit of braking in. It took about 50 miles for me to eliminate most of the brake noise, and now it's just the standard, mostly, for the most part I should say, the standard rotor sounds when you hit the brakes. Here's an example, if you can hear it. Not bad, but I'll tell you what, before 50 miles in, I was pretty embarrassed to be hitting the brakes around anybody because it was absolutely loud. Now, if you want to unlock Class 3 mode to get that 28 mile an hour top speed, it's pretty simple. You hold the plus and minus button until you get to the settings screen, and you're going to hit the power button until you get to P08. And once you're there, you'll see the default level is 32. You hit the plus button, you go to 100, and now you're ready to rock and roll and pass level 5 with 28 mile an hour max speed. So I'm going to switch this to pass 5, and let's see how fast we can get this bike going. So I'm not putting in a whole lot of effort into this. It's actually really comfortable. I'm actually not pedaling too hard. Now, if I want to get to 28, like I mentioned earlier, you're going to have to pedal a little bit harder to get to that top speed. And there's our 28, there's our 29, and you're good to go. So if you do need to hit those higher speeds, you're in a rush to get somewhere, whatever the case may be, just know you absolutely have that ability. And, you know, 20 miles an hour, like, I'm not putting in any effort at all whatsoever. I'm just moving my feet. I'm hitting 23, 24 miles an hour. Barely any effort on my end. Like, I can literally do this for hours. So if you're into those higher top speeds, hitting 28 miles an hour, this bike can do it with a breeze. It's not a stretch to hit those speeds at all. And I'm going to switch back down to the default Class 2 bike. Now, to be honest with you, for the most part, I stay in this number 7 gear, and you know, you have the ability to play around with those, but over the last 100 miles, I think 7 is just perfect for general overall riding. I actually rarely use these shifters. And here's another example of the brakes. I'm going to put them full on. So a little bit of a slide out on the rear tire there. But I'll tell you one thing that this bike has going for it is it's got super strong brakes. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've got hydraulic brakes on this bike. And I know that when they first released the XP 3.0, it came with manual brakes, but they have since started shipping these out with hydraulic brakes. And I think there was a window in which people who got the manual brakes were able to get a free upgrade to the hydraulic brakes, so that was really nice. Something to call out, you know, this bike does have fenders front and rear, and those are attached with some metal wiring. And, you know, there's a lot of metal on metal contact. So one thing I noticed with this bike is at certain pedal assist modes, you do hear some vibration that intermittently comes in. And what I have done is anywhere where there's metal on metal contact with that fender assembly, I've put some polyurethane washers between where the metal contacts, and that has greatly helped with that vibration. All right, we will cross this little bridge here. Over the 202 freeway here in the Gilbert and Mesa, Arizona area. All right, nice little pond here at the dog park. We've had some freakishly hot weather this summer, like record-breaking consecutive days of 115-degree heat and days above 110. So there's a lot of algae in this water, unfortunately. But I want to come over here because there's a little bit of a hill that we can go up to test the hill climb performance on this bike. All right, so we are in pedal assist level 3. And guess what? I don't feel this hill at all whatsoever. If I go into pedal assist level 2, I am doing a little more work, but completely manageable. Nothing like it would be going over this hill without any pedal assist at all whatsoever. So really nice experience with the pedal assist on this bike. All right, and as you can see on the screen, at least I hope you can see, we are at 8.3 miles on this trip so far. And if you hit the power button on this controller, you'll get some additional metrics that you can see on the screen. For example, how much current you're drawing, the elapsed time of the ride. So we've been riding for 36 minutes here. And of course, there's your odometer. That's your trip. This is the voltage here. So I think it's around 54 volts fully charged, and so we're at 50, so we've got quite a ways to go. And I think a drain battery somewhere around 43 volts, but don't quote me on it. I'm taking that off the top of my head, so I hope I'm remembering that right. And then of course there's our battery bar at the top. You can see it's full, which, you know, I don't know how accurate that is. You know, if I want to double check, I'll absolutely look at the voltage. But you know, the energy bar, you know, sometimes it's a little bit higher, sometimes it's a little bit lower. It fluctuates, and I think it fluctuates based on the actual current draw on the bike. And so if you're cranking on it, you know, going uphill, of course that battery life and range is gonna be depleted there on that ride. So wow, I just got a bee just landed on me. I don't know how he managed to do that as I was riding, but he landed on me and was trying to sting me. So that's definitely a first. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I've been riding now for 41 minutes and I'm not fatigued, I'm not tired. My butt is not sore. Which I can thank this Zoom seat post and the upgraded Cloud 9 seat for, because I remember when riding around on the stock seat, it's quite uncomfortable after about 40 minutes to an hour of riding. As you can see, like this, the LCD brightness is fantastic during the day. I've ridden a lot of like e-scooters in the past that, quite honestly, I don't know how they get away with some of these LCD screens that they build into them, but you can't see them in direct sunlight. It's completely washed out. And so Lectric has done a really good job in LCD selection for this bike, because this is actually the lowest brightness mode, and you can see this screen without any issues in direct sunlight And so that's a huge plus. On the flip side of that, at night, this screen is a little bit too bright. Now the default level is kind of in the middle of the range there. You can drop it down a notch to what it's at right now, but even then I still find the screen to be distracting. So I'm hoping that in future iterations of this bike, they give you the option to lower that brightness level even further, because it is a little too bright even for night. You know, when you're riding around at night, you know, your vision isn't the same as it is when you're riding out around during the daytime. You know, it all comes down to the rods and cones in your eyes, and at night you're using those rods, which are really designed for peripheral vision. And so when you're riding around at night, you absolutely want to make sure that you're focused on the road and the things that are around you, and not some bright LCD screen, you know, blasting you. And so if you do get this bike, definitely lower that brightness level. Another thing I want to mention about this bike is, you know, the Lectric XP 3.0, it's completely foldable, and that's a huge plus, because I'll tell you what, I don't want to have to put a bike rack on the back of my car, a bike rack on the roof of my car. I don't want to have to fold down all of the seats in my car to transport my bike. So foldability has been top on my required features for an e-bike that I'm going to take around with me and ride everywhere. And so the nice thing about this bike is that it folds in half, and then the actual steering stem, the handlebars, fold down as well. So that's a huge plus in my book, being able to fold this up. Now, what I will say, and I'll show you here momentarily at the end of this ride, when you do fold this bike, it doesn't, you know, fold and then latch together in an easily transportable manner. Like it kind of dangles there, and there's no specific handle for you to lift up on to lift it into your car. They do include now, I believe, a piece of Velcro during shipping, which I have kept. So when you do fold it in half, you just loop that Velcro through the wheels, and you can secure them together that way. But if you don't use that, you're going to have this bike kind of trying to unfold on itself when you're carrying it. But other than that, you know, that stuff I can live with. That's not a problem, because you know, the very fact of the matter is I can fold the bike, and that's all I really need. Oh, there's a Roadrunner, if you can see it. Those are super fast birds. If you're familiar with Roadrunner and Coyote, that Looney Tunes series, I think it was. Anyways, we've got these Roadrunners all over the place here, and I'll tell you what, those are some super aggressive birds. They remind me of like modern day velociraptors. Those things will hunt down lizards, snakes, mice, rats, other birds. Like, they completely dominate the doves and pigeons that fly around here in Arizona. They don't stand a chance. Those Roadrunners will literally stalk their prey and follow them everywhere until they get them. And so absolutely crazy thing to watch in action. I don't know if you heard it there for a moment, but that's a little bit of that vibration. And it was a heck of a lot worse before I put in those polyurethane washers. So those have helped a lot. And I think in order to fully eliminate it, I mean, you've got that span of metal that goes from the fork to the back of the front fender. And that span, I don't think, is rigid enough. And so at certain frequencies, it will vibrate. So at certain motor levels, you will feel that vibration, and it's only there for a second or two and it disappears. I can live with it, but if I do want to address that, I think my next step is to put some rubber tubing around that. And we just drove through a dirt devil here. Oh, wow. That is the beauty of living in the desert. You've got dust devils all over the place and these thermals circulating everywhere. Actually, last night we had some crazy storms roll through Arizona. They brought a lot of supercells, and you can still see some of those big clouds out there in the horizon, but I saw some super intense supercell formations, and there were like lines of them. And apparently in North Mesa there might have been a small tornado touchdown, because it completely upended the Falcon Field Airport out there. The hangars, roofs were all ripped off, the planes were flipped upside down and turned all around the place, and so crazy stuff. All right, we're about 50 minutes, that's 50 minutes into this ride. Got 109 miles altogether on the odometer, and this ride is 11.6 miles, and we still got plenty of battery to spare. Voltage is at 48.7. So super impressed with the range so far that I've experienced on this bike. I will be doing extensive range testing as well as hill climb tests on this bike, so absolutely stay tuned. As soon as I have those up, I'll publish links to those in the description of this video. But I will be doing the range testing and hill testing to see how this bike performs. Now, out of the box, they say this Lectric XP 3.0 will do 60 miles of range. Now, I think that's in like pedal assist level 1 in the most ideal possible conditions, with a rider of a very specific weight, probably in, on a windless day and all that fun stuff. But I want to take it through a real world test where I'm mostly in pedal assist level 3, maybe dabble in 2 or something a little higher for certain stretches, but I'll try and keep to 3, which I think is the optimal level for me in this bike. Now, one nice thing that Lectric does is they do put some relatively real world stats in there for you to kind of get an understanding of, based on the pass level, what amount of range can you expect to get. Another improvement that I think Lectric can make on this bike is definitely within the menu system for the various settings that you can set. They label them like P01 through, I think, P24. And I think it'd be nice if they had more user-friendly labeling on there, so you can figure out what exactly you're adjusting without having to carry like a quick reference guide or the manual with you. So some more friendly menu options would definitely be appreciated. The nice thing about this bike is the battery is completely removable, which is huge in my book, because I can just pop the battery out and charge it indoors. I mean, you should never leave any of these bikes left unattended when charging. Generally speaking, the consensus is that lithium batteries are generally safe, but there are certain conditions that could cause lithium batteries to explode. If you have a damaged battery, if the battery is exposed to water, if there's a defect in the battery, if it's exposed to super high temperatures, a lot of things like that can impact the performance of a battery and ultimately lead to failure, which, if you haven't seen the videos of lithium polymer batteries or lithium ion batteries, they go up in flames in spectacular fashion. So when you do charge the bike, I highly, highly recommend not leaving them unattended. So yes, the bike does have a removable battery. It's really nice. The key that you use in this bike locks the battery in place. So if you need to park your bike out somewhere, it definitely has a locking mechanism, so somebody doesn't come up to your bike, pop the folding mechanism, remove the battery and run away with it. It's a $500 battery on the extended range version of this bike, so that wouldn't be good. So it's nice that they do include a locking feature on the battery compartment. And I'll show you here in a moment, when you fold the bike in half, it's easy to access it. You just unlock the battery and you're good to go. You can just bring that battery inside and charge it up with the standard charger. Alright, so I'll run you through this real quick. So this is the Lectric XP 3.0 with me not riding the bike. And there is the locking mechanism right here. And of course, that is the key. So I will unfold this and show you what it looks like. Alright, and this is the bike in its unfolded state, and this is where the battery goes. and you've actually got your key here, so when you unlock this key, it'll actually pull the bolt in and you'll be able to take it right out. No problem at all whatsoever. So if you need to remove the battery to charge it inside, it's easy to do. Just unfold the bike, turn the key, unlock it, pop the battery out. All right, so overall, I am super happy with this bike and its overall level of value that it delivers for the price. I will be posting an in-depth review of this bike, as well as some range tests and hill climb tests, so absolutely stay tuned. I'll be posting those soon. So that concludes my ride-along of the Lectric XP 3.0 Long Range Edition. If you already own this bike, let me know what you think about it in the comments, and if this is a bike that you're looking to purchase in the future, let me know what kind of questions you have. Absolutely happy to answer those. And once again, thank you all for tuning into Tom's Gadget Garage. We'll see you next time.